Hey stranger, do you wanna have a chat? Could you tell me where you're from or where you're going, where you're at? Hey stranger, could you use a little break from all the way you're carrying and maybe entertain me with your stories and I'll tell you mine. I'm really lonely, I just wanna try, seeing if we could get lost for a night. So won't you come join me for a drive?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very special guest on the show. This is a former friend / acquaintance from high school who I've just happened to link up with in my visit to. I think he's got a lot of interesting stories to share with us about his past life as a criminal and aspiring
Come on, man, don't put it like that.
Reformed citizen who's trying his best to obey the law. And it should be a good time. So just to give you like a vibe of how the show typically goes, I'll usually do some housekeeping in the beginning, just set like the ground rules. Ground rules is that there are no rules. Okay, you can say whatever you want, be as open and honest and raw as you want to be, and your face will be totally censored, your voice will be changed. When I actually get the edit finished, I'm gonna run it by you to get your approval on the final cut.
Sounds good.
And any identifiable information is going to be stripped from the final edit. That's basically it. There's like no real structure to the show. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, and that's the vibe. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Let's do it. So, okay. You tell me where you want to start. Like, what's the first crime you ever did?
The first crime I ever did probably was when I took a girl's purse out of the club.
Okay.
I ended up taking like a couple hundred out of it, and then I put it back.
Okay.
What's crazy is
wait. You took a couple hundred out and then you put it back?
And then I put it back where I found it, just to make sure that...
Just to see that you had the skills to...
Exactly. Yeah, well, I put back the purse, not the money. I kept the money, of course.
I thought you were just doing like a trial theft.
No, there was no trial in it, man.
Okay.
Actually, funny enough, the reason why is because I had, this one friend around, and this person was convincing me that there's like no risk doing it. But like me, I've always been about like covering my tracks as much as I can, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And so I knew exactly where the cameras was in that club, and I knew that if this is on camera, that's it, it's over. So I wasn't gonna do something stupid like that on camera. I made sure, I was in a spot where there was no cameras. I did what I did, returned it.
Yes.
That way I wouldn't raise any flags. And I thought, that would be the end of it. Funny enough, I think my friend thought it was a good idea to go back and see what he could get out of it. So he takes the purse, in broad, I guess, like as open as it could be in a club, and in front of all the cameras and whatever.
Yeah, not quite broad daylight.
Not quite broad daylight, but almost there, right?
Yeah, broad strobe light.
Yeah, exactly. And there was even a bouncer that was in on it. Funny enough, he was telling us like, just give me a cut from whatever you take. So, anyways, he ends up taking a credit card and thinking it'll be a good idea to take the credit card. Now he goes and taps it to see if it works, and it works, right? So he ends up, my homie ends up going and literally ordering like bottles, right? And bottles in the club is like probably the most expensive thing you can order, right? Because
how does it work without the pin?
Well, there's a top limit. Usually in Canada it's 300. So as long as you top under 300 and you don't do it consecutively, you can easily like get access to their credit, right? At the end of the day,
so it's like
credit card.
300 per day?
Well, it's 300 per transaction usually if you don't have the pin and if you just tap it on the machine, right?
All right.
So, he didn't have the pin, so he said, why not just try tapping it when I get these bottles? So he goes and orders a couple, and sure enough, it goes through.
Wait, and the whole time this operation is going down, this victim of yours, she's like in the club and...
She's in the club, I guess, looking for her purse because, you know,
Wow.
if it wasn't for this guy, she would have found it, no problem. She probably wouldn't even notice the money's gone. If she woke up the next day, she'd be like, oh, I probably spent it on drinks, right?
Okay.
Or drugs or whatever.
Mm.
And she wouldn't have noticed that the money's gone. But he took it a step further and decided to just take the purse and, you know, all the cards in it, some IDs. You know, you could do a lot with that information. You know, if you have someone's ID and you have their... Essentially, you have their fulls. We call them fulls. It's just someone's full information, right? You have
Oh, okay.
all the information about like where they live, how old they are, anything.
All their government info.
Exactly. Anything necessary to go and, you know, take someone's identity almost.
Okay.
So he did that, and he took, you know, some cards, took, I guess, like her phone, which is also really dumb because phones can easily be tracked. So you take someone's phone, you take it home, next day there's gonna be feds at your door saying, hey, like, we know you took this phone. I'm not joking.
Okay.
Because find my iPhone, right?
Yeah.
So you can't unlock the phone, you don't have access to it, you can't erase it either because you don't have access to it, especially if it's an iPhone.
Okay.
There's some software geeks out there that will probably be able to do more, but again, if you're on that level where you just took a phone out of the club and took it home with you, I guarantee you the next day you're gonna get caught.
Yeah. Do you want the AC on?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay, alright.
So, funny enough, he's going and he's spending all that, and it turns out that she was actually like visiting. She didn't really live in our town.
Okay.
She was just visiting, and so when she went and the next day and noticed that, you know, someone was running up some charges on her credit card, she called it in right away and said, hey, like, listen, there's been some fraud activity on my credit card. So the cops actually got involved at that point. They went straight to my homie's house because they seen...
Phone?
Well, no, he didn't have the phone, but they seen on the cameras that he's the one that snatched the purse, and he used... Like, there was multiple transactions that he made in front of cameras. Just, for example, when he went off the bottles, like, it was all on camera. So... You know, like I said, there's smart ways of doing things, and then there's dumb ways, right?
Okay.
And just doing it like that, just to have a good
the smart way was to just take the cash like you did, and the dumb way was to use the credit card like he did?
Exactly.
I see.
Absolutely. You know, and if you were even to take her credit card, like, you would take it and not use it in a physical place. You would end up going and making purchases online under, like, a drop address, so an address that's not actually yours. You know, some place to deliver the stuff in case the feds try to, you know, get onto it.
Okay. When you say the feds, like what?
Cops.
What's a okay? That's just slang for cops.
Yeah.
Because it's not actual like federal agents, right?
Well, we have actual federal agents too, but those are different. Those are like, I think RCMP or whatever.
RCMP is what? Royal Canada.
Mounted police, some shit like that, man. But to be honest with you, like, just if I say feds, it just means cops or feds. Doesn't matter. It's all the same. You know? They're the bad guys in my eyes.
I was just about to quiz you on Canada's federalist system.
Thank you, man. Yeah, so they came and knocked on his door and they said, hey, listen, like, we know you took this purse and we know you, you know, ran up some charges. So there's theft and fraud, technically. If you think about it. So theft, you have theft under 1,000 and theft over 1,000.
Okay.
He was charged with theft over 1,000, which is obviously more serious.
Yeah.
And then there's fraud, which is fraud under 5,000 or fraud over. And so fraud under is, again, not that serious. And he was charged with fraud under.
What is, describe the crime of fraud for me. Like, what is that?
Fraud is essentially pretending like you're someone else and doing something under that person's name. So there's a lot of things that fall under fraud.
Okay, so when you buy something under someone else's name, you're committing fraud.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, so how did he get... He got a charge of theft for over 1,000 and
yeah.
Fraud charge was below...
5,000.
Oh, below 5,000.
Yeah, because fraud is usually something on a way bigger scale in Canada, right? You usually have people like taking maybe 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 out of someone's bank account, and so then that becomes like some serious fraud charge, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess because he went and did that, and on top of stealing the actual purse, he ends up with both of those charges, or one of each, thankfully, right? Because he just did it one time, right?
Yeah.
But I know some other guys that weren't that lucky, you know?
What happened to him?
Well, I know one guy who actually went and he used to buy credit cards online, right? You used to have a platform where you can go and actually just buy people's credit card information.
Okay.
So, you know, you buy the
Stolen credit
number,
cards.
well, it's stolen or hacked, or maybe the person doesn't even realize that they don't have their credit card. They just somehow took a picture of it, right?
Okay. How do you do this? Is this on the dark web or something?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so when you do that, you go buy these credit cards and then you essentially just try your luck, right? Back in the day, 2020, 2021, that's when it used to be big.
Okay.
And so the feds actually cracked down on it a lot, and they required most websites to put in, you know, an OTP or something like that if that card was never used there before.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much you and your luck, right?
Okay.
So a lot of websites these days, or most of them are gone, and you need a complex system. You need to pretty much like use a proxy and whatnot in order to actually be able to, like, we call it carding. In order to,
What's a proxy?
a proxy just pretty much changes your location, you know, masks your IP address.
Like a VPN.
It's like a more complicated VPN, yeah.
Okay.
It's like one that puts you at that person's location instead, you know.
Wait, so these sites that you're talking about, you're saying that they became obsolete after the introduction of the OTP?
Yeah, essentially.
People weren't using OTPs before 2020?
Well, not necessarily, and you also have these smaller websites that would just let you charge it. You know, they just want to make their money, so they wouldn't require.
Oh, okay. So like the
It's the website that's usually.
Okay, I see.
It's like a combination of both, but
Mm.
you know, mostly the websites. I guess in the past that I've tried.
It's like
wouldn't
the
have them.
merchant's responsibility to install that
Yeah,
security feature on the
I
platform.
suppose, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not exactly entirely sure how that part works, to be honest with you, but I do know it's been, you know, bad for business ever since. And you always have those guys that, you know, will probably call in and try to finesse the OTP.
Okay.
You know, there's people that charge, you know, actual money for that service. They say, hey, listen, like for like $200-300, I'll go and call this person and I'll get the OTP code from them, right?
All right.
And that isn't even, that just is social engineering at that point, right?
Uh-huh.
So,
Wait, so how does that work? Like they just
well, they'll just call and be like, hey, your son's in jail and they require this amount. Or they'll make up some backstory and they'll say, at the end of the day, you know, this OTP we need in order to, you know, make sure that whatever transaction you've been doing is going through. But I guess they phrase it in a different way. Maybe they'll be like, hey, someone's using your card, give us the OTP so that we block your card. You know, and obviously if you're
like an elderly person who isn't hip to the times, you'll fall for it.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Yeah, so what happened with your friend after he was charged with those crimes?
Well, now he's just in court trying to fight it off. He's probably looking at, well, let's be honest, it's not the worst crime he's done. It's his first time offense and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
plus he has a really good lawyer.
Okay.
So taking into account all these factors, he's probably going to end up just paying the fine. Maybe if he doesn't have the money to pay the fine, he'll do community service, I guess. But, like, I know people that have had these one-time fraud charges that ended up just having to take a course or something like that. Just, they'll feel rehabilitated in that way instead of actually doing time, right?
All right.
Yeah.
So, what's his like socioeconomic background? Is he like upper middle, lower class? Like, what's the?
He's definitely lower class, and he's also just a straight dumbass because he started telling me that he was stealing from his own parents and stuff, and that's where I told him, like, yo, I don't want to ever talk to you again because that's just fucked up, right? Imagine stealing jewelry from your parents and then, you know, they're already broke and not doing well, and neither are you, so why would you just go and ruin their lives
Damn, yeah.
just so you can have some extra bread, you know?
So I guess there really is honor among thieves.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. And in a bigger sense, you need to know who you're dealing with because these are going to be your people at the end of the day, you know? Like, if you're partnering up with this person, let's say they have a good idea and they say, hey, listen, like, there's a place that has no cameras. We can go in with, you know, and just walk out with this amount of cash, right? You want to make sure you're actually able to trust the guy, you know? If his own family can't trust him, how can I call him family? You understand?
Okay. So, like, your whole mindset as you're entering into this business, let's call it, is like very much a deliberate, like, I need reliable partners who are going to help me
Absolutely.
as much as possible.
You
Okay.
need trustworthy people. You need people with good morals. You need people that know how to spend money, and you need people. I'm not even joking. although you're in a bad business, you need good people in it. You know what I mean? Because if you're partnering up with people who are flashy and who don't know how to be discreet, then you're 100% gonna throw your life away. You're gonna end up,
I see.
in jail or worse, right? That's what they say. You're either gonna end up in jail or capped, right?
All right.
And you don't want either of those things to happen to you. So,
Do you know people who have been capped?
well, it doesn't happen as often, and that usually happens with drugs. But yeah, I do know a couple, and those guys, I'll tell you right now, they were in gangs, and I was never, in a gang or anything like that, thankfully.
Okay.
I did not want to reach that point, even though I knew a lot of gangsters, and for the most part, I had good relationships with them in case I ever wanted to do business with them. But nothing like that, nothing like where I'm actually in a gang.
So let's backtrack for a second. So this was your first crime. This is like your first introduction into this
It was, yes.
underworld scene.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did it progress from there?
Well, from there, we started kind of doing small time things. And that includes like scamming people, a little bit here and there. Or that includes, just selling like a minimal amount of whatever you can of stolen property or anything like that.
Okay.
In order to actually earn some bread, right? It wasn't anything too serious until we got into, big time fraud, right?
Okay, and typically how much would each scamming operation net you?
That would be, that's something that it's literally like 500, maybe 1,000 if you're lucky, right?
Like each time?
Each time, right? And you end up doing that 5-6 times, and then eventually, the bank catches on and they close your account, and now you gotta go find a new account to do it, right?
And the accounts that you would do it under, they would all be fraudulent accounts?
Not necessarily, but they wouldn't be my account, right?
But
because
by definition, if they aren't your account, aren't they fraudulent?
Not necessarily. Again, it could be someone that says, hey, you can use my account for this activity. So a lot of times...
But that account that they're lending you, that also wouldn't be under their name, right?
It could be under their name, but they just wouldn't care. That's what you call a mule, right? So a mule is someone who just takes the fall for you in exchange for a certain amount of money, right?
Okay.
So a lot of times, what you would do is you'd go find someone who like really desperately needs money, and they're like asking you, like they see that you're, in the scene, they see that you're flashing your money, whatever, and they say, hey, I want to be a part of it, right? And you let them know that, listen, you're going to be a part of it, you need to start from the bottom, just like we all did. So when you start from the bottom, you have to kind of give up your bank account information, and you just need to be willing to accept the risk, right?
Okay. So were you a mule at some point as well?
I wasn't a mule ever, because I never wanted anything to go back to my name. And if I had to do something on my own, then, I'd go and create like a fake bank account if I had to, which I didn't really have to do more than once, right?
So the way that you just described this like mule thing, it sounded like it was an initiation process of like everyone starts at the bottom, they start.
Yeah, mules, and absolutely.
Graduates to some higher thing.
Absolutely.
So how did you circumvent that process of becoming a mule?
Because I was already friends with kind of the top guys, if you want to call them that. And I had a good mentor who pretty much taught me what I needed to know. And one of those things was that you need to never do anything under your name. And if I'm hearing this from the top guy himself, and then he tells me, hey, I need something under your name, that would be very hypocritical. So, and he's smarter than that. So I never, just from the start, I knew not to put anything under my own name. I also don't want to avoid doing time. So I guess that's another way of, actually knowing that.
And how did you meet this top guy?
Well, it was pretty much the same way that I met anyone. I was just in, I was one night in the club, and I had a bottle, I had a section next to his section, and we kind of just like merged sections, right? And we got to know each other and whatnot. So I figured out what he does for a living, and I told him, hey, listen, like, it looks like you're making some serious bread, and I'd just like to be a part of that somehow. And there's usually different plays in fraud all the time, like it's not the same thing. But one of the biggest things you can do is pretty much just load an account, right? So for that, you need someone's account. You need a loader.
What is loading an account?
Well, loading an account just means filling it up with money. So the whole process is technically, in a way, money laundering.
Okay.
But essentially, the loader, the person loading the account, will try to find, an account that has some decent amount of bread in it, right? It'll have like 20, 30, 50 in it.
This is before it's being repurposed for this loading thing you're talking about?
Well, he's just on his own going and doing whatever he can, maybe hacking, maybe spamming, in order to actually find a bank account that has money in it
Okay.
and that he has access to, right?
All right.
So once he finds that out and he finds, hey, listen, here's an account with, like, let's just say it has 500,000 in it, or, you know, a mil in it, or something like that.
Okay.
He tries to target the guys with a lot of money so that way once he withdraws money from them,
It's like a rounding error on their total.
it's like something that they wouldn't notice. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
pretty small amount relative to how much they actually have, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And you have that, and you also have people that just load with fake checks, and you just, for that one, you just pray that it works, essentially, right? But yeah, he just that process involves, you know, just filling the account up with money and then withdrawing it day by day until the bank realizes that, hey, these are stolen funds, and same thing, they close your account, they lock it, and you probably like never get it back, right? So in most cases, it's probably smarter to find someone willing to take the fall, because if you go in and you use like a fake ID to make an account or something like that, eventually that fake ID is gonna get caught. Like, you're gonna have people either reporting that the credit is changing, the credit score is changing, you know, I don't owe this money to anyone, how come I owe it now, that kind of stuff. Or the feds will catch on and be like, hey, like, I know you're making accounts under fake names, it's time to go, that kind of thing.
Okay. I'm still kind of confused on how this loading thing works. So what happens first is you will hack some account. You'll gain control of some account that isn't legally yours.
Exactly, and then you just wire it over.
What is wiring it?
Like a wire transfer.
Okay, you wire transfer some ill-begotten gains to that account.
Yeah.
And which account do you do that from? Or is that just like a cash deposit?
Well, again, you have someone who's willing to give up their bank account in exchange for some money, right?
The mule.
Yeah, the mule.
Okay.
So once you have the mule and his bank account, then you have the hacked account, it's literally just transferring from one account to another, right?
Okay. So it's sort of like, if I'm understanding it correctly, it's basically like an informal banking system for criminals, where because none of you can like tie your funds to your legal names and entities, you'll just
Pull it out cash.
yeah, pull it out cash from these loader accounts that are funded through mules.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I get it. All right. So this top dog guy that you ran into at the club, he was flexing. You asked him to be a part of his operation. And actually, like, before you go into the details of that, like, what is the... I kind of imagine there's some sort of etiquette or vetting procedure that you go through when you're interacting with these criminals. Well, it's like you said, there's like honor and some discipline, some kind of
Right.
code of conduct here.
Uh-huh.
So like, what are both parties checking for when they're communicating with each other and trying to see, like, okay, this guy really knows his shit?
Well, for me personally, I'll tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for two things, honestly. I'm looking for someone, number one, they have money, right? And they have actual money, not just something they're flexing. And number two, they're only strictly about business. Like, they're not talking about, you know, violence or gang shit or anything like that. All those wannabe guys that, hey, like, I'm gangster, this and that, I don't work with at all.
Okay.
You know, if you even look to me like you're trying to impersonate a gangster, that's it. I'm not with it. I'm not working with you.
All right. So the two checks for you are, first, like, genuine wealth.
Yeah.
Second is nonviolence.
Because you need to actually have money to make money, right? A lot of these things are not cheap. Like, you have to go and buy certain hardware, software. Let's say you want to go buy particular cards or anything like that. Whatever equipment you require is not going to be cheap. So you need some startup money.
Okay. So, like, in the case of this big dog guy, how can you verify how much wealth he actually has, like, just based on him popping bottles at the club?
Well, that's a good question. It's not. I didn't just assume he does just because of that.
Okay.
But, you know, after we became friends, we hung out a couple times. I actually went to check out his place. We had that level of trust, and I went and I've seen, you know, he shared some details with me, shared some secrets, some private information with me, and that's kind of when I verified, okay, like, this guy actually has money in his account. He's not just like the type of guy to make money and spend it. He's not the type of guy to even pretend like he has money.
Okay.
You know, and just being at the club itself is not cheap, especially if you have a section. You're talking about like 1,000, 2,000 maybe a night, right? Like, sometimes you go and you spend big bucks in the club. just to, prove a point. And I guess I could, I guess he proved his point that he has serious money, right? And so I wasn't really worried about this guy having money or not. He drives a fancy car. He has a nice apartment in downtown. You can tell that the guy actually genuinely has money and he's not just flexing.
Okay.
Right?
How old is he?
28.
28. All right. Okay, so yeah, guide me from here. Like, what's going on in the plot?
Right. So I guess one of his biggest methods was to just.
Wait. I think I know that one. Method is like a format for a scam, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, method is just like a new play that's coming out, like a new way to make money.
Okay.
So one of the methods that he came up with, I guess, was, and this was back then, so I don't really know much about this, but has to do
back
with
then, as in 20.
Yeah, like
2021.
like COVID days, something like that, and that's way before I knew him. But according to him, he was somehow loading up prepaid credit cards with money from hacked accounts and ended up in total making 1.2 million, and that's when he would just go and spend all that money on like designer or whatever, just stuff to like he wouldn't spend all of it on that stuff. He would spend a good amount of it, and then the rest of it would have to be funneled through a front and that kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
You'd have to have
like some cash-rich business that you could launder it
yeah,
through.
yeah. In his case, he opened up a fake consulting agency and just declared that he was making this much on, giving advice or some shit like that. I don't even know. But yeah, he was smart about it. That's my point, right? I want people who have money to know how money works and actually be able to, enjoy their money without like raising suspicion.
Okay.
So he's, never been questioned or anything like that. He's generally like more of the low-key guys, right?
Uh-huh.
So he's good from that aspect. Like I know I can at least not necessarily trust him, but I can trust he knows how to make and keep his money, right?
What is the kind of thing that you would view as disqualifying in a business partner?
Like I said, anyone that pretends to, be all about that gang life and pretends to like flex guns or anything like that, anyone that starts like off the bat is kind of hostile towards you, saying like, oh, if this doesn't go right, it's gonna be some problems,
Oh, okay.
Those kind of people right off the bat, I'll tell them like, even though I can start problems if I want to, and even though there would be probably 20 people that would be on my side and we could easily wipe this guy out, we would make sure I wouldn't resort to that, because first of all, you're drawing attention to yourself, and second, this guy is not, so he's just a fake gangster, at the end of the day, trying to prove that, he's a man or whatever he's trying to prove. All you need to know is you need to stay away from it, because he's not going to be worth your time. Like, he's going to turn his back on you once you make money, that kind of stuff, right?
So real mob bosses don't actually talk like that? Or?
Yeah, dude, you'll never hear a real gangster at all. You won't even hear them speak in that kind of tone to people they just met, or even to
very rambunctious and bombastic.
Yeah,
style.
if honestly, my experience with actual gangsters, with real life, people that are untouchable, has been nothing but love. They've shown me nothing but love. And the first time I met them, every time I go out with them, they try not to let me pay for anything. I don't let them pay for anything. It's always this fight between who's paying, right? Because of just the genuine love they show, and they just enjoy being around company.
Okay.
And they don't even talk business either. When it's time to have fun, it's time to have fun, right? So you will know who a real life gangster is, because gangsters move in silence. I promise you that. So if someone's going out there right from the start trying to flex that, hey, don't touch me, I have money, I have people, I have guns, I have all that, I guarantee you, broski, they're struggling. I guarantee you they're struggling.
Right.
And it's just in your best interest to not get yourself wrapped up with that lifestyle, because I guarantee you the guys that talk the loudest are actually the ones that, they're not doing well. The people that talk the loudest, trust me, they're talking loud for a reason. They're talking loud to make up for a lack of something, right?
I want to backtrack for a second. So prior to you doing the first crime, I feel like you've already crossed a pretty high threshold when it comes to risk and danger and the illicit nature of the activity. So I'm assuming it didn't start there, right? You've probably done other shit in high school or right?
That's true, yes.
Okay. Yeah, just
Well, I'm
want.
talking about like my first, maybe, I don't know, crime as an adult, you know what I mean? But
see.
yeah, in high school, we used to, high school was fun because, obviously we have the whole vaping thing, and that thing was just ridiculous because
Okay. Yeah.
teachers could not like crack down on it. Like the more they tried to stop students from vaping, the more they just started vaping, right?
Yeah.
So the funny part about that is like I saw that as a really big opportunity in my eyes. I said, hey, listen, all these young kids are vaping. I'm not gonna be stopping it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna stop these kids from vaping.
You just want to capitalize on the.
I want to capitalize on the opportunity. Like I said, I see business. I work with the business. That's all it is. Like there's nothing else involved in it. It's just making money. You just need to be about making money, right? So I guess like that was a form of crime, if you want to say that, because obviously vaping is not allowed, and all high schoolers and whatnot.
Okay.
But I knew a lot of people that vaped, and so I knew that if I go and buy one for cheap and then obviously sell it at a decent profit margin, I can have some extra money to just go and flex in the cafeteria or whatever, right?
So what was vaping actually like illegal here, or?
Well, it's not illegal at all.
It's just banned in school.
It's banned in school, yes,
Okay.
of course. So obviously, technically, that could get you in whatever high school trouble you'd get into, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't worried about that. Obviously, I was in high school, and high school is more about having fun and going out, that kind of stuff, right? So I guess like I seen a whole bunch of these kids vaping, like people just younger, and that's probably when like my morals should have kicked in. But I knew they vaped, and I knew that no matter what I did, I probably wouldn't be able to stop them because me myself, I vape too. I'd be a hypocrite, right?
Okay.
If I told them, hey, don't do that. So I just saw it as an opportunity to make money. They're young. I don't care how they get the money, but they clearly have money to spend on vapes.
That's so funny.
So I just provided them with vapes, and I told them, hey, listen, something that would cost me $50, I go and sell it to them for $250. So right there, you're
50 to 250. That was a markup.
that was a markup, man. That's the price of, that includes the risk of me getting caught and getting, expelled, and then my parents finding out about that and then shipping me back home, so there was some risk involved, there's always risk, and I'm always calculating the risk in my prices, right? So that was a big one. Other than that, you have the typical like scene here for like buying whatever they consider weed and then just like chopping it up and selling it.
Okay.
So if you buy like, I don't know, you buy like probably 1,000 worth of weed here, you could sell it for 2,000 easily, something like that. Like when it comes to buying weed here, it's like one of the most illegal things you can do in this country. So that was something I tried not to get involved in at all. But from time to time, whenever the opportunity presented itself, if appropriate and if you calculated the risks and you were willing to say, let's do it, and there's no really going back on it. So you'd have to kind of go and cop like a certain amount and somehow like mix it up and just sell it as if it's like the same amount or maybe half of it, and in return you get to double your profit or whatever.
Okay.
I know a lot of guys here in this country that have been booked for it and end up doing time or getting deported. So like I said, that risk for me was just not worth it.
Yeah. He was telling me like one time we were driving, like making pickups for your yearbook club.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that like one of the head guys, like one of the head dealers in this area, when they caught him, like they beheaded him, and his chief complaint about that whole incident was prices shot up by like 10.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's always a problem when someone gets caught because right away you notice prices go up.
Yeah.
And like I said, I never tried to get in the drug industry, but I knew a lot about it and how it works, especially back where I live. And so what I knew about that place is whenever someone got raided, right away prices are going up.
You say back where you live, what are you talking about? Canada?
Yeah.
Okay.
So over there, whenever someone I know gets raided or feds are on to someone, then right away like the price of a brick goes up. So it's a similar concept here, and here it's actually more risky because people
your life is on the line.
Your life is on the line here. Like you're dealing drugs. That's it. Like you're getting like you don't even get to taste prison. You're going straight to 6 feet under.
Yeah.
for definitely not worth it here. Like if it's not worth it there, it's definitely not worth it here, right?
Yeah.
So like I knew a couple guys here that like were just lost. They got wiped off the scene, like never heard from again because they used to deal. And then all of a sudden, we don't hear from them anymore, which is an indicator that, you know, they probably got booked and either, like you said, got killed or, you know, had to get deported. I actually have a couple friends that went through that. So one of them, you know him, in high school, he was a president of high school. Can you believe that? He ends up doing some stupid shit that we taught him back in Canada. We taught him how to use the web, and he ends up ordering like actual weed here, and he got caught with, I want to say half a kilo maybe. And they also caught him like growing some weed in his backyard too. Believe it or
This is
not,
someone I know.
this is someone you know too, man. So
President of
yeah,
student council at
yeah.
Upayan. I just know Upayan.
No, not a plan. There's a,
What's his
yeah,
name?
his name's. But pretty much he got caught with, you know, we taught him how to use the
Wait a
web.
second. Is this the guy? He had like the mohawk
Yeah,
thing with the
yeah.
fade on the side. Yeah, okay.
So believe it or not, he became president of high school, and he promised to install like these bidets in high school, right? The handheld faucets that you use when you're shitting, right?
yeah.
So yeah, he was a very influential guy in my opinion. He had a lot of potential and whatnot. I guess he got into the scene and eventually started just being sloppy. Started ordering stuff straight to, you know, the post office, which is like, you know, they're gonna know what's coming in the post office. If they have one dog there, it's over. Like, they can smell that shit right away, right?
Damn.
I'm sure it's vacuum sealed and all, but like, these dogs have capabilities, right? They can smell that stuff. So he just goes to the post office to pick up his package, you know, half a kilo of fucking marijuana, and next thing you know, he just gets, you know, they just took him in and didn't hear from him again.
And he's just, that's the last you heard of him.
That's the last I heard from him directly. From what I hear now is that he's serving like a 12-year sentence. I think he's already done like 3 of it or whatever, but
That's crazy.
he didn't get killed for it because he had like a whole backstory and whatnot, which is probably it.
He had Wasta?
Well, I'm not sure if it's that. I think it's more of like, you know, his dad is like, his dad passed away and they used that as like a sob story, right? I don't know exactly what it is again, but I know that he didn't get killed for it. And I also know that his business partner, which was my homie back in Canada, believe it or not.
Small world.
It is a small world, but he taught him, you know, how, like, the lay of the land, like what you need to do in order to actually order this stuff. Now, mind you, this person that taught him is also someone I know, and that person that I know, I would tell you for a fact not to do business with because he does not care about covering his tracks. Like, that's not on his priorities, right?
Okay.
Which is also why I probably should have avoided doing business with him. And now he's like facing some serious shit in Canada too, which I was tied up with. All right. So yeah, you know, again, drugs is like a big no-no unless you're capable of like somehow. It's honestly the same rules for this shit. Like, you need to have a mule. You need to have someone who's willing to take the fall for you in exchange for some bread, right?
Okay.
Someone that's willing to like just take the fall regardless of like what the fall necessarily is, right? You just need to be willing to just, you know, take one for the team, and usually those people are heads, or they're like people that, you know, are struggling or need money and whatnot, and so they're more likely to accept your offer.
What did you say? Those people are heads?
Heads, yeah.
What does that mean?
Heads just means like a crackhead, like someone that's, you know, just a drug abuser, and you can just pay them with like a gram of drugs, and they'll do whatever you tell them to.
Okay.
You know.
I see.
So yeah, like I said, you need to find someone who doesn't really care about their life, and someone that's willing to like do some time in exchange for a bag or something, in exchange for like a gram of like drugs, right? He didn't have someone like that. He was just ordering straight to the post office, and he would go pick it up himself. And so right there, like, those are two faults right there that could. Apparently they were building a whole investigation on him for months, and that was kind of the breaking point. That was when they were like, hey, like, we can't let this get on the streets because that's a big amount. And you know, previously he'd order like 30 grams, 50 grams, 100, and he'd get away with it, or he thought he was getting away with it, when in reality he was being like watched, right?
Okay, yeah, like when the first shipment came in.
Yeah, he was being watched because they're like, hey, like, this isn't like the right amount that we're looking for. It's still criminal and whatnot, but we can definitely get him on more if he continues to do what he's doing. Alternatively, he might have a change of heart and stop doing what he's doing, and then, you know, that's the best case for everyone. But, that's obviously not what happened. He just ended up getting caught and now is doing pretty big amount of time. I have another guy that I know who used to also it was also connected with him. They caught him outside someone's house dealing, and they ended up beating the shit out of him. And he was supposed
who
to
beat
get,
the shit out of him?
well, the cops, the feds, beat the shit out of him.
Okay.
And because he's not like a citizen, they used that in court, and they said that that treatment itself was wrong, and so he ended up dropping his charges from 15 years to just 3 years somehow.
What treatment was wrong? The
Him getting beat the shit out of for that's not right. He didn't try to fight back or anything. They just went and beat the shit out of him and then put him in cuffs, which was why would you do that? But they're very corrupt here and they don't really give a shit. So something like that they're willing to just do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I said, man, you need to be smarter about the way you move with the stuff. You have people doing that stuff for you for a reason. You have someone that wouldn't talk if they got caught. You make them run some drugs for you if you're getting into that. Again, that's not my thing, but I know enough about it to say that, if I were to do it, this is how I would do it. And so how I would do it is, again, you put some lesser important people to you in charge, right? Someone that is obviously not your friend and someone that's willing to take the fall for you in exchange for what you offer them, right? Whether it's money, drugs, whatever. So you just need to stay away from that stuff, man. You know what I mean?
I have a question about the packages. So when he's ordering these packages of weed vacuum sealed up, what would the actual package look like outside of the weed?
Well, it was discreet delivering, so it would be whatever the supplier decides to hide it in, but usually it's your typical,
just a cardboard box.
Cardboard box. Within it is a packaging of maybe a flower or some random shit, and then inside that is the vacuum sealed product, right?
Okay.
Because again, you need to be as discreet as you can about this shit, and if you're not, then you have the chance of him getting caught. And if he ratted out the supplier, then that's a whole other problem. But because it's internationally shipped, it's, outside their jurisdiction, they can't really do anything about that. So instead, they can do something to this local guy who's ordering in bulk and dealing,
Okay. Gotcha. So let's circle back to the point you were at. You joined the top dog guy, or you did join him, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you joined him. And you guys did loading stuff together, and where to progress from there.
Well, yeah.
And wait, and at this point, how old are you?
22, 21. Pretty much met a lot of guys in the club. A lot of them were seeing the way that, we're spending a lot of money in the club, and they're intrigued that, how at this age are you able to spend that much and, just make they want to, I guess they were chasing that lifestyle.
It's like that scene in The Wolf of Wall Street where Jonah Hill goes up to Jordan Belfort.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, how the fuck are you making all this money? I'll quit my job right now if you show me a paycheck. Okay.
Exactly. Right. So, they see that, they get impressed, they get intrigued, whatever it is that's going on in their brain, they say they want to be a part of it. They also are very aware that, we're not involved in any gangster activity or anything like that per se, but also, if you do us wrong, then there's gonna be some consequences, right? Just how there should be, right?
Like what would the consequences be?
Well, it depends on, how serious it gets. So far I've never actually had to deal with anyone doing anything like that, but if you're actually talking about what mafia members do whenever they find out, is pretty simple. They go and they take a finger from you, or they go and rob your house, for example.
They take a finger from you?
Yeah. Or they'll go and rob you at gunpoint, or they're doing what a bad man needs to do. You know what I mean? They do what they have to in order to
chopping heads off horses and putting them in the sheets type shit.
Not necessarily to that extent. I think.
I just remember that from that one scene. I think it's a Godfather. Yeah.
Well, it's not like that. It's more of that's honestly that's probably a better warning. That's more of a warning shot. You know what I mean? And that usually if someone was to be warned, it would be the head of an organization that's getting warned, because it's we don't want to touch you just yet because we know you have money and you're good, probably potentially a good business partner.
Okay.
What if you get a warning like that? It's a clear indicator that you need to stop, because they're able to get that if they're able to get that into your fucking house, you know, like,
All right.
you don't want to wake up with like a dead animal next to you. That's fucking, no one wants to see that, right?
Yeah. Have you coordinated on the removal of any fingers in the past?
No, I haven't, thank God. And like I said, it's never been to that level because we had a system. Like I said, I needed to cover my tracks as well as I can. So my system was, you work with someone once and never again.
Okay.
Right? So you get one mule and you get one middleman, and then that's it. You never work with them again. Right?
Just like this podcast. I get the strangers on one time and then we never see each other again.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm kind of confused then on like how the actual disciplinary procedure would work. Because like if you're only working with them one time, like what's the point of having like some?
Well, now that person that you worked with is probably up $5,000, $10,000, and they're happy, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, you and your partner are up $5,000 to $10,000, and you're happy too. So now you get rid of that person because in case the feds come after them, which they probably wouldn't for something they did once. But either way, like, halas, you just leave it at once. You know not to get greedy because getting greedy in business will actually kill you. That will get you, like, that's the worst thing you can do, right? Because once you start seeing the money and you realize, like, first off, it's not legit money, right? Yeah. Second, you need a way to wash all this money. Like, how are you going to go and try to prove that you made this money legally, right?
Yeah.
You know, the tax man is always watching.
I had the same exact experience when I was selling lip kits in high school.
Yeah, I remember that. That was good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, you know, you get in, like, and then you can do the same thing with, like, counterfeit products if you wanted. You know, you get something like a replica of a Nike, right? And this is, I guess, like, semi-illegal, you know, but it was good money still, you know. You get replicas of a shoe, for example. You get Nike shoes that cost these child workers literally $5 to make, right? You buy it for $5 and you end up bringing it, you know, to your foreign country and you sell it for, I don't know, 80, 90, 100. And so right there, that's just stupid margins. And, you know, I did that for a little bit too. It was, you know, semi-legit, but at the end of the day, it was still kind of a product, so it wasn't right. But, you know, whenever the opportunity presents itself, like I said, there's always ways to make money. So if someone's out there just, hey, like, these are knockoff Air Forces you can get for like $10, which literally look like the real thing, then no one really needs to know that it's not the real thing.
Yeah.
And if someone goes out of their way to check if it's the real thing, then that's probably not the right product you want to sell, right? You just want to stick to some of the lower scale items that people don't really care about. Like, you don't want to really go and sell a counterfeit item that costs like $2,000 because then they're going to want to make sure it's real, right? So, you know.
Yeah, something that isn't subject to a lot of scrutiny from the consumer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You want to play it safe. You want to make sure, you know, something like that, you're dealing with small quantities and stuff that won't get you caught. Because you're importing it too, right? So there's import fees and there's border agents that are, you know, from time to time.
You have to pay them off as well?
You do have to pay them off, yes. But if you don't, and, you know, they realize, hey, like, this is technically considered counterfeit items, then, you know, now you're fighting a counterfeit charge, which, you know, is just, it could be that on top of, like, fraud and whatnot. You understand?
Yeah. So, sorry, so we were at the loading thing, and then from there you progressed onto what, counterfeit items?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was always been like a side hustle. It's always been something just I knew I could do on the side just to have some extra go up, right?
All right.
So, you know, you get a fake pair of shoes and you just sell them as if they're real, but you don't sell them for too much because, like I said, you don't want to get greedy. And then there's also, I guess, pretending like you have a real check. You give it to someone, you say, hey, this is a real check, go cash it out for me. You know, and so then they'll go into one of those loan agencies or those quick cash agencies, right? You give them this check, you say, hey, this is like a check from this car I bought from a dealership. They wanted to pay me in check. And you go to the bank and you pretty much need an insider for that. You need someone inside the dealership that's willing to fax over some confirmation. That person will fax it over to the bank and say, hey, yeah, this is a legit check that I gave them, even though it's not. And you just convert that to cash.
Just to get the details of the scam correct. So, like, the person would go into, like, a payday lender service, right?
Right.
They'd go in with a check that they claim was written for them
Right.
by a car dealership to pay for their used car or something.
Or anything like that. It doesn't necessarily need to be a car dealership. It could just be
some business that can give some
Yeah.
confirmation of the fact that, yes, this is a legitimate check. So then they present that check to the service, they get the cash instantly,
Yeah,
and then they fuck off.
exactly.
All right.
So the one thing with that is, at hand, they hold on to a check, so they're actually able to see that if they want to investigate, they can see that this was a fraudulent check. Like this check should not have been cashed out because it was fake, because it was made in house. It wasn't an actual check. They just replicated it so well to the point where they have the signatures, they have the stamps, they have everything required to make it look like a real check. On top of that, they have a fax confirmation from someone that works at that place saying this
And
is a
that
real
guy's
check.
gonna get fucked.
Well, yeah, that guy ends up usually getting fucked, which is why if you do that, you better expect that person, that insider, is getting paid a very good amount, right? Because they're getting like upwards of like 40 to 50% of the total. So if you're doing
they're
a check
assuming
for
most of the
20K,
risk.
yeah, if you're doing a check for 20, that guy's gonna end up getting 10, which is honestly a very decent amount for them to take on the risk, because then they'll be like, oh, whatever, like I can quit my job and just, you know what I mean? That's 10 grand. That's probably what I get paid in like 2 months, right?
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah.
So he does a few of those. Next thing you know, the guy can go and retire from that job. Right?
Sure.
So yeah, there's just different methods to to a lot of these things that people do when it comes to fraud.
As you're doing all these crimes, is there any part of your heart that says like, this is wrong, I shouldn't be doing this, like why this is unsustainable and immoral, like what?
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of times, you want to, if you're doing that, you want to make sure you're scamming someone that's not going to take a hit.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're doing a hacked account, you want to make sure it's an account with someone that actually has a lot of money in it, so that number one, it's not a big hit for them, and number two, they might not even notice that money's gone, right? Likewise, you could also get a check from an insurance company, because again, those guys have like stupid money, so for them, obviously it's going to be a problem, but it wouldn't necessarily be a big problem like it would be for like a smaller business or something like that, right?
So you're never going after like individuals, you're going
Never.
after like business owners and like people who are wealthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
A lot of times as well, there's a new play that involves crypto, which I haven't really gotten into, but from what I know is you can, like I said, hack into these big major crypto accounts, people that hold big amounts of crypto, transfer some over to your bank or to the mule's bank and withdraw that cash. That's obviously like, it's the same concept where it's like morally you don't feel as bad because it's someone that has a good amount of money saved up, and so for them this is a very minor inconvenience, if anything. But I know a lot of times for example, my homie that's currently getting fucked for his charges, he pretty much, what he did was
The fraud and the theft charge guy?
not that guy. This another guy.
Right.
He's getting involved with scamming like citizens, right? Just scamming regular people.
Okay.
And those people would have like maybe maximum like 2,000 in their account, and he'll go in and take 1,000, right? So like I said, greed in this game is the number one thing that'll like cause problems to come, because if you're doing that and they have enough complaints, then eventually they're gonna be like, okay, well, who's the one like scamming you and getting all this money out of you?
Would that be a disqualifier for you in terms of doing business with that guy? Because I feel like that's a pretty scummy thing.
Generally, yes, it would.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a pretty scummy thing. And I believe that what goes around comes around. So if you were to like scam these guys that barely have money, then I feel like eventually, number one, they're gonna catch you, or the feds are gonna catch you, right? Like I've seen instances where, this guy was doing it and now he's facing like 6 fraud charges, 6 money laundering charges, and also a what was it called? I forgot what the last one was called.
Fraud, money laundering, identity theft.
Not identity theft, no. It was forgery, that's what it is.
Forgery. Okay.
I think he like pretended to make some documents, and once he did those, he pretended to make like, these are legit documents, and obviously they weren't, so that's technically forgery, right?
Yeah. Okay, so...
I did all that for a while, and then,
Yeah, how long had you been doing it?
I'd say probably just tops like 2 years.
Okay. And how much did you make?
In total, myself, I would say close to 40, 50 grand.
Damn.
Yeah. So, in terms of the trade-off, like, if all I were to catch was like one charge, right off the bat, your lawyer's probably gonna take 5 as a retainer and then another like 5 to 10 to fight off the case. So if you actually saved up your money from doing all that, then it would be worth it because now you're like a net of like 35, 25K, you know, like
Sure.
you're still up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, some people aren't as lucky. Some people don't want to save money. Some people, you know, just want to spend their money once they get it. And that's usually what happens in most cases, which is why you can't be, you know, the head. You can't be the main planner if you're just don't know how to use your money wisely, because you do all that, next thing you know, you don't have money, and on top of that, you have some charges you need to fight off. So now you just fucked yourself, you know?
Wait, so why did you say you can't be the main planner?
Because, well, it depends on, like I said, first off, you need to have the contacts. You need to know a guy that knows, you know, how to do all that stuff. Like, you need to know, for example, you need to know a loader. You need to know someone that knows how to load accounts, and that right there is an expense because he's going to expect a decent chunk out of the money.
Okay.
Then you need to go and find a mule, or find someone who knows a mule, which is not ideal because now you need to pay 2 people instead of 1, right? And the more people get involved, the less money you're going to end up keeping into
How
your
big
pocket.
is the typical squad that you have?
Typically 5 people, right? You have a loader, you have an insider if you need to, you have yourself, the middleman, and then you have a mule and his friend, right?
Okay.
So right there you have 4 or 5 people, and you're pretty much getting pennies out of it the more people you bring in, because first off, the loader and the middleman are both huge expenses. So right there, off the bat, at least 50% of the total is going to them. Now you need to worry about the other 50%. You need to make sure the mule is okay getting like a decent amount out of it. So honestly, like, that's when you need to kind of get greedy, because now, hey, listen, this guy has like the account he's providing for us. He's gonna expect a decent chunk to keep his mouth shut and to, you know, actually go through with the plan. Like, he's gonna see 20K in his account and he's gonna be pissed off that he only got like 5K, you know? He's gonna be like, what the hell is this? Like, and he's gonna start problems for you. And that's when you kind of just need to tell them, like, hey, just shut the fuck up, or you're not gonna, like, it's not gonna be good for you, right? Like, sometimes you need to know when to put your foot down. You know, I don't like to think of myself as a bad guy or anything like that, you know. I don't want to be a bad person, but sometimes, you know, you gotta do what a bad person would do, because if not, it's gonna cause you more problems in the long run.
So what was like the worst thing you've done to someone in this business?
Probably not pay them. Yeah, maybe give them 100 or 200 and tell them they'll be happy with the money. Okay. Because, like I said, it's a dog-eat-dog world, so you're gonna have to find people that are willing to, you know, give up your account and keep their mouth shut, right?
Well, wouldn't that cause problems for you down the road? Like,
it could potentially cause problems depending on, you know, who you're working with, right? But once they know that you're not like a small-time guy, you know, you're a big shot and you have people working for you, and, you know, you can easily cause problems for that person if you wanted to, then they're typically going to approach it. They're going to be very hostile about it. But once you put them in their place and you tell them, yo, it's either this or we come and like shut you up, then they're going to choose, you know, the former, and they're going to just accept whatever they took and just say, fuck it, whatever.
So you were at a pretty high level of operational, what's the word? Operational fluency, maybe? Or,
sure.
Yeah. Like you had underlings and henchmen who can get shit done for you, like if you need it.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Of course. We always have, you know, like I said, there's always people willing to do something for the right price, right?
And what would the right price be for them?
If it's someone who has nothing, then $100. You know
what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, you can literally convince someone to take someone out for you for $100, right?
Damn.
Like I said, there's a lot of people that are just like struggling to get by, and so they'd be willing to do literally anything for the money.
And are these guys like the, you know, stereotypical caricature of like someone like a buff, bald guy who can just, you know, he looks like he could fuck someone up, or it's just some random jackass off the street who wants to get violent for pay?
Well, it could be either.
Okay.
Usually what it is like people that are maybe, I'd say, a little bit closer to me, because I'll know they'll get the job done if needed, right? And I also know that they have like people that they can bring with them too, again, if needed, right? So usually when it comes to like threatening someone, all you need realistically is just manpower. You need like 5 guys showing up to this guy's house. Now he's wondering, how do you have my address and why is there this many people there? Just do whatever. He'll be like, I'll just do whatever I can to get them away. So in most cases, it's get down to your knees and beg and say, look, I won't do anything again. I won't make a problem out of it. And that usually gets the job done. Once you do that a couple times, now all of a sudden you have people that know, like, yo, you're not someone to fuck with.
Okay.
But also, you know, you don't want to be known as a guy that fucks people over, because then you're going to be known for that and people aren't going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
So you got to find a balance. Right? You got to let people know you can fuck them up if needed. But also, if they decide to work with you and get along with you, then they'll get paid nice.
So when it comes to sending that message of like, you can be touched, most of it is just performative?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I would, you know, I always pray and hope that it never gets out of hand like that. No, seriously, because I
Like
don't
when
want
both
that
of
on
you
my
were playing a game of
conscience.
chicken with like your future.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want that on your conscience that, you know, you went and ruined this guy's life just because they weren't willing to, you know, shut up, or they weren't willing to, they were just trying to disrespect you, essentially.
Okay, so throughout all these instances where you're sending someone to, you know, be threatening, would you, like, what's the most violent it's ever gotten?
It's never gotten more violent than it needs to be. It's just, well, I guess one time I decided to go along for the ride,
Okay.
right? And, you know, this is something that was like very, very, you know, this is very personal, but, or I guess not personal, it's very touchy. Like, essentially, you know, there was one guy in town who thought he was like a gangster, right? He thought he was a top dog and whatever. And he wanted to do business with me, right? Well, he told me he wants to see the product. Well, not with me. He wanted to do business with, you know, one of these guys that slings fucking, you know, goes and sells major quantities, right?
Major quantities?
Yeah,
Okay.
someone that sells, right? So he decided he wants a taster of the product.
Okay.
So typically you'll give that out for $100. You'll give them, you know, a bag for $100, and, you know, most of these people aren't gonna be willing to give anything out for free. So there's just rules you have to follow, right? So I decided to show up with my homeboy, and it was like a little gathering. Like, he had some girls over, I had my girls over, I had my guys too, you know, or just, I guess, my one singular homie. But, you know, he decided to, you know, I was talking to this guy in the beginning, and then I gave him the product to try. And I told him, if you don't like it, you know, I'll give it back and I'll give you back the money. And I guess right there I fucked up, because he probably saw my kindness as a weakness. He said, hey, listen, this guy's a soft guy. I can probably just like start threatening him and shit. Right?
Wait, so the kindness that you displayed in that instance was what? Like you gave him a free sample?
Well, I gave him a free sample and I told him he can either buy it or he can return it, you know?
Okay.
But he wanted to just take it without buying it, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't know that there would be, you know, I'd have to deal with the consequences if that was the case.
Typically what happens is they'll purchase a sample for $100.
Yeah, exactly.
And in this case, you just gave him the option to have the 100 returned to him if he wasn't satisfied with the product.
Yeah, you know, if he tried it and didn't like it, right?
He interpreted that as a sign of weakness on your part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So that was a fuck up on his part, because he thought that, you know, oh, this guy's a nice guy, I can just probably rob him.
Okay.
So, you know, he took the stuff from me, and he somehow got my ID into his hands, right? And so he tried to take a picture of it, and that's when I flipped. I'm like, yo, like, you're not taking a picture of my ID, fam, you know what I mean? Like, it has my ID on it, it has my full name, like, you're not getting a picture of my fucking ID, you know?
Uh-huh.
But he was insisting, and he's like, listen, like, you don't know who I am, you don't know where I'm from, I'm a gangster, this and that. And, you know, some short fucking old Asian guy in his mid-30s talking to me, trying to convince me that he's a gangster.
All right.
And, you know, he's literally alone in this party. He's standing there alone. And I knew for a fact that this guy is not who he's claiming to be. But because of the age difference, I was always taught to respect my elders, so I let him talk. But once he started threatening, that's when I took it personally, and I said, yo, this isn't going any further.
Like the deal isn't going any further.
Nothing's going any further, neither is he. So I called in my homie, and we took him to this tiny ass room. We sat him down, and we put our hands in our pockets. We didn't even take anything out. And as soon as he saw that, he got down to his knees and started begging us not to do anything. Like, I saw a completely different person than the first person I was interacting with. He just literally falls down to his knees, starts begging me not to do anything, this and that. And I didn't even, like, at that point, I knew I didn't even have to say anything. So I told him, listen, get up, give me everything in your pockets, right? So he goes and gives me like a good, like 400 or 500, gives me his phone. I took his shoes from him. I called him an Uber and I told him, get the fuck out, because if you don't, then you know it's coming to you, right? So just off that one person, I made roughly like $2,000 because the deal went wrong and he didn't decide to show me the respect. Like, you're not gonna be dealing with a guy that's moving this stuff and expect them not to, you know, to retaliate when it's necessary. And like I said, I never like to do that kind of shit. I like to just keep it business as it is, you know, like right there. If he did it and he liked the product, could have given me 100, could have connected them with some people, and he could have started moving the stuff on the streets, could have made some decent money down the road. But because his pride got in the way, bro, I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you, it's just because some of these people, they have too big of an ego, or they get too greedy. But because this guy, man, I'm telling you, he just had a big ego. It wasn't right, you know, it didn't sit right, you know. I let him talk for a little bit. But once he started threatening, that's when I said, yo, like, I'm not taking this disrespect. I don't take disrespect from no one, you know what I mean? I don't let anyone threaten me the way you're trying to fucking do. I don't let anyone tell me what the fuck to do, you know?
What was the threat exactly? What did he say?
Well, he told me to, well, he was trying to, first off, get my address in hopes that he would shut me up. And he was trying to take the stuff off me for free. Okay. And I told him that can't happen because it's going to have to come out of my pocket. And I'm not doing that, obviously. You know, you could have just been civil and just, you know, paid 100, but now he had to end up paying like $2,000 because of his fuck up.
How do you get your ID into his hands?
That part I don't even remember. I guess I was just using it to like cut up some lines for him or something like that. But you know, that once I realized that, like, yo, he has my ID in his hand, like he snatched it out of my hands or some shit. That's when I just flipped and I was like, I called my homie. I was like, yo, like, we're dealing with this now. You know, so now it's getting dealt with.
Is that typical of a deal? Oh wait, the lines that you're cutting, that's the sample that he wanted to try.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
And like I said, there's big people that were moving drugs or anything. I wasn't really doing any of that, but from time to time, whenever they needed the delivery done or something like that, then I would, you know, if no one else can do it, sometimes I'd volunteer to do it, not volunteer and get paid nice to do it. Right? So I would say, fuck it, you know, I'll go make 1 or 2 deliveries for you and that's all, you know what I mean? Just to like fucking throw some money into my gas tank or whatever, you know?
Sure.
So off that one guy, you know, just the change of tone, like just starts stirring this and that. I'm not gonna take that disrespect. He was a short Asian guy, clearly older, all tatted up and everything. Like I could see how he's an intimidating character. But bro, once you have a couple guys in front of you with their hands in their pockets, like, you know shit's about to happen to you. So it's in your best interest to just shut the fuck up and do what we say, you know? So that's pretty much, I guess, one of the other instances where I just, like, I didn't want to. I genuinely did not want it to come down to that. I thought it would be a simple business transaction. But he ended up, like, acting all gangster and shit. And like I said, I don't like working with those type of people.
Sure.
So once he started acting all, he literally said, he's like, oh, I'm from a gang here in Cali, whatever. Dude, like, I knew right away he's not a gangster. No gangster goes and says I'm a gangster. You understand? Like, you're not gonna do that. You don't want anyone knowing that. That could fuck you up in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And like, literally, I made the guy walk out on his bare feet. I'm telling you, no gangster would accept that. Like, he would rather die instead of walk out on his bare feet, you know? Again, I didn't want it to come down to that, and that wasn't my plan from the start. I knew he had money. I had no intention of robbing him, but I had to rob him because he was moving different, you know, he was moving funny. I had to fucking show him not to fuck with me, you know? Okay. It's either that, because some people, broski, some people just don't understand, you know what I mean? Some people just don't get it. Like, they don't understand that, yo, there's respect that you need to show to certain people. Whether or not, like, there's a certain person you need to pay respect to in general, you're meeting someone new, you fucking show them respect until they don't show it back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm meeting someone new, I'm treating you like a fucking brother until I have a reason not to, you know?
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I treated them. I greeted them with open arms, you know, treated them like a brother. I gave him an option to not even buy the stuff, to just try it, which, again, would have costed me. But whatever, I still gave him that option just because I said, hey, listen, this guy looks like a good guy. You know, he's just about business. And then he starts saying all that stupid, silly shit. And I'm like, bro, like, there's literally no fucking point. What you're saying is not necessary.
Yeah.
But then he starts moving funny like that, starts moving different, starts calling himself a gangster. I was like, hey, you know, you can do that, I'm gonna do that too, but I'm not just gonna say I'm a gangster, I'm gonna fucking show you myself, you know?
When you put your hands in your pockets, what is the implied threat there? That there's a gun, or?
That there's something. Whether it's a shank, a fucking switch, whatever it is, like, there's something in your pockets that should not leave your pockets, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So that's pretty much like, I didn't even, I was gonna just pull out whatever the fuck my homie had and tell him, yo, like, fucking deal with this guy on the spot. But obviously he's smarter than that, and he's seen that, I guess he has like a wife and kids at home. He's like, yo, I don't want to lose them. So, now all of a sudden I could have done that and got all his information, went to his house and like robbed his entire house if I wanted to. But I kept it at that. You know what? I have your address, I have everything. Don't fuck with me again, or you know what's gonna happen, Now this guy, literally, I had to treat him like a head. I had to fucking put him out on the streets with no shoes just because he, you know what I mean? Just because the deal went wrong. Not because of any external factors or anything like that, just because he decided to be a dumbass.
Yeah.
Like I said, bro, I don't believe in all that, but sometimes when you have to do it, you have to do it, It's part of the life.
How do like when you think about yourself and your actions, you don't think of yourself as a criminal or a bad person?
I don't think of myself as a bad person.
All right, talk me through that a little bit. Like what is what's the thought process there?
Well, I believe fair is fair. So if someone's doing more work for you, they deserve to be paid more, right?
Okay.
If someone's out there hustling, trying to get you more heads and more cards, more accounts that you can burn, that person's gonna get compensated nice,
Sure.
When the loader themselves is slacking and just giving me dead replies and taking forever to do their job, then I might turn my back on them and be like, hey, listen, like you fucked me up with this whole, loading thing, so now you're gonna have to pay a price,
I see that, but I mean,